All right. Hello. It is Wednesday. If you're on the West Coast, it is noon, and it's time for another Courier Live. I'm joined with Danny. He has returned from our engineering team. And for those of you who don't know them, I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me again, Adrian. So I'm here, I think, for the second or third time. Excited to talk about lists today. I've been with Courier for almost a year now, working all throughout the product, mainly focusing with engineering, and can't wait to talk about our new feature here.
That's right. And this is a long-awaited feature for me, and we're going to talk about lists. And that's exciting because we've had some people who've wanted to send the same notification to multiple people. And until now, the best way to do that was to make multiple API calls. So we've moved into the realm of one API call, multiple recipients. So to go along with our multiple channels. So yeah, let's. Why don't you tell us a little bit about lists, and I'll switch over here.
Yeah, as you said, the key thing, folks using Courier to date have really been focusing on, one API call that triggers sent to an individual recipient across any of the channels that we support, of course. However, it still required that individual call. Now you can group these lists where you have multiple recipients that are interested in kind of same topics. Easy way to think of it is, a marketing newsletter, for example. I buy a product and I get automatically signed up and subscribed to that list. So this is really powerful because now it's, like you said, it's one API call to, as many recipients kind of as you want, to as many channels as you currently include in your notifications ecosystem, all through just that one call with Courier.
Right, and making that one call, you might have people on there on your list that prefer to receive as an email, some to receive as a text, and we're going to take care of all that for you, just like we were sending one-to-one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, gosh, where to start? We've released a whole new list API, and so that deals with everything to do with creating a list, deleting a list, subscribing people to lists. And then even there is a different call for sending to a list now.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I thought it might be fun to take the notification that we've been using on the last few streams. So we have a Courier Live Alert. And I think this makes more sense now that we have lists because we can have people subscribe to the alerts. So that way, whenever I go live, I can do my API call and it will be sent out to everyone so they'll know that we're live, what we're talking about, etc. And then in some cases, it might even turn on a light, depending on if you caught that episode.
Exactly.
So what do we got to think about whenever we're starting to use lists? I guess where would you start?
So you really want to think about how you want to organize your list because these are things that you want to be long living. Lists aren't something that you're throwing together constantly, day in, day out, different memberships. Lists are about more of a steady membership where you're looking for most people are going to be looking to grow the list. When you're thinking about things like the marketing use cases, but you really want to just think about how you want to organize the different material that you're connecting with your end users on, your customers. So I think that's the first place to start. But from kind of a product perspective as well, we also really care about how we name lists, how we use the identifiers, because we have some pretty powerful stuff under the hood that we can, I think we'll get to as well with patterns.
All right, so it'd be a good time to look at this tab here. So we have put together some list ID pattern guidelines. So we have the concept of a list ID, but then we also have the kind of the concept of a list pattern. So do you want to go into that? Because this is something that I'm still trying to grasp. How to best use those.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll talk about it just a little bit here. I won't go into too much detail. Okay. As we're kind of looking at a little bit of the code and we're thinking about the different types of lists that we're going to do in this Courier Live session, we'll see a little bit more tangible feedback for what we're looking for. But when you're looking to potentially send across multiple lists, usually what you're trying to accomplish is, for all the people that are subscribed to, list A, list B, and list C, come up with some better, more entertaining example than that. But I may want to send across anybody that's subscribed to either or any of those three lists.
Okay.
And so if we build patterns in a way that we have different parts, so kind of part one dot part two, for example, you can use wildcarding, and we'll look at the exact examples, but that way I could say send to list dot star, for example, and it would match list dot A, list dot B, list dot C. And that way I can ensure that when I'm sending to people that they only receive the notification once, even though they may be subscribed to multiple lists.
Okay, well, let's continue with our example, and let's make sure that we name the lists in such a way that we can continue using them as like our subscriptions or the things that we can subscribe to grow. So we just got a new employee. So we got our very first marketer here at Courier. So shout out to Courtney. While I'm concerned about letting people know whenever I go live, she could be concerned about letting people know different things that we're doing in the marketing side. And then Nate, who we met when we did brands, has been doing a product update notification. So it would be great if he could also kind of tap into these lists that we're creating. So let's start from there. I'm going to go over to, I have a Visual Studio Code. So currently we are doing this API first. So we can create everything using our RESTful API. There are a few things exposed in the UI right now, but that's moving forward. We're going to be adding more and more functionality. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the send one I have put up. We do have a list endpoint now on my account, because this is the first time I'm using lists. If I were to run this, so if I did node list, it's going to come back with nothing. So I have an account with 0 lists. So maybe we should go ahead and create one.
Do such a thing. No lists.
You know what? Let's make this account as functional as possible. Like I add all the notifications, add all of the features. That's what I want. So to add a new one, now there's a couple ways that we can do it, right? So we can do all the planning ahead of time and create all the lists. Mm-hmm. Or we have the ability to create lists on the fly as we subscribe people to them.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's two different ways, as far as creating just the list itself. The membership as well. You can either send individual requests. Adrian hits the button here on the top of Twitch and subscribes to this page. Mm-hmm. So that would be an example of somebody subscribing to a list, or in that case. But you can also, if you have a membership kind of already built up, we also have a endpoint where you can put an entire list of subscribers and attach that to a list as well. So
like if you were wanting to migrate from a different service, we make it easy for you to do that.
Exactly.
What a concept.
I'll tell you.
I like this API. So there are two ways to do it. We could do a put. So in the Node.js library, we worked really hard to get that updated yesterday, and there will be a patch release coming soon. But we have the ability to do courier.lists.put and create a new list with an ID and a name. And so we could do that here, or I have another one here with a subscribe, where just the fact that we set the list ID whenever we subscribe, it's going to be created. So let's do one for each, because we're going to be creating a few lists here, I think.
Yeah.
So I've gone ahead and kind of scaffolded out what a subscribe call looks like. Mm-hmm. And in order to subscribe somebody, they first have to have a profile, right? So the first time creating someone, you're going to want to make sure that they exist inside Courier. And so to do that, we use our profiles API. And so I've gone ahead and created a recipient ID for Danny. So I'm following the same that I've been doing for mine. So I'm Adrian 10036. And so I'm just, for his recipient ID, I'm doing Danny and the zip code of our office. And so what this is going to do is we're going to start by creating Danny's profile. And then we're going to use that recipient ID that we used to create the profile, and we're going to go ahead and subscribe him to the list. But first, we need to come up with the list name. So let's say that this list is going to be the one for the Courier Live Alerts. Mm-hmm. So what would be kind of, when we're going back and talking about naming and patterns, like what would be a good way to do that? We start with the, go ahead.
So we kind of have a pattern built around kind of a dot syntax as a delimiter between different parts of the pattern that you can put together. And so if we think about the different parts, we might want to start with kind of the highest level entity. So maybe we start with Courier.
Okay.
Because we're not gonna have anything outside of the scope of Courier here. And then if we want to be able to use patterns, we can do a dot as you just did there, and we can do something related to, let's see. So our live is run out of our DevRel group. Mm-hmm. So maybe courier.devrel.live.
Devrel.live. Now these list IDs, is this something that the public is going to see? Because this is just the ID. We can also give it a name, right?
Yeah, so you can have a label that's more oriented to that particular list, which you can, you'll see that in the lists of lists within our UI and things like that. But generally speaking, this is more of a concept that you have, and you certainly don't want the identifier being a part of the actual content.
Great, yeah. So what we name it is going to make sense to us. It might not make sense to people outside of your organization.
Correct.
Cool. So I think that works. We'll stick with that. Let me inspect the code here to make sure I'm not missing anything else. So we have our list ID. The first thing we're going to do is create that profile or merge it if one already exists. This is Danny's, and it is new, so it's just going to create a new one. And then once that's done, we're going to make a call to list.subscribe. We're going to pass it the list ID and the recipient ID that we're subscribing. And then what I'm doing is I'm just pulling back all of the lists that Danny is subscribed to, because the list subscribe doesn't return anything. It just returns a 204. So this is just kind of a way to kind of close that loop to make sure that Danny was subscribed to this list.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let me do a clear here, and I'm going to first save the file, and then I'm going to run it. Okay, so we got a success, and then using the fancy console.table instead of console.log, we can see that Danny is subscribed to courier.devrel.live. And since we created this as part of the subscription, the name is null, but we could update that later. Awesome. And so if we go over to our Git and we run our list that we ran earlier, actually I can just run it. And now we do have that list, and it looks a lot like the response from the last one.
Imagine that. Yeah.
So this time, let's go ahead and let's add another list, but this time we'll do it with the put.
Mm-hmm.
So we need another list. Let's think about maybe the one for the updates. Right.
Yeah. So we'll start with Courier, obviously, and we'll have the dot to actually separate the parts of the pattern there. And in this case, let's just call it product, and let's call it product.live as well. To represent live features that we're going to be updating people. A little bit of a weird name, but it'll help us to show how you can leverage these patterns in different ways. And this will basically represent kind of the weekly updates that we share with both folks that have expressed interest in us, the list that we have, as well as folks that are actively talking to us and considering using Courier, and folks that are already happy using Courier.
Okay. And so because we're using the list.put, we have the ability to set the name right now. So let's call this weekly product updates.
Sounds good.
And so we are going to call that get. Oh, sorry. We're going to make the call to put. The put doesn't return anything. It's another 204. So I'm going to make another call to pull back that list just so we can see the row.
Exactly. And this time we should actually see something in the name column as well.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to go ahead and clear this, and then we'll run node put. What was this?
Yeah.
And here's what everybody's been waiting for, an error to happen. So we've got the foot unhandled promise rejection, request failed with status code 400. And I'm living dangerously without try catches, so maybe we need some of those as well. But request 400.
Yeah, what we might want to do here, it looks like there's just something acting up in that endpoint here. Why don't we change this example to actually do the subscribe as well, and that'll help unblock us for the live session. And
yeah.
But generally speaking, what you'd expect here is that you'd be able to go ahead and put this list, and all you do is really you don't even have to produce a name. That's optional, but you certainly do have to do an ID. And like we talked about earlier,
okay.
You'll want to think through the identifiers and how you structure them, because you can get a lot of power for sending across these lists if your patterns are thought out as well.
Sure. So what I'm going to do is go back over to the subscribe, and I'm just going to change the list ID to the one that we came up with for the products. And I'm going to add Danny to that one. Cool. We're going to clear this out of the way. And I'm going to run node subscribe. All right. And so now Danny is subscribed to 2 lists. That's what we're returning back here. And if we go over to if we run our lists, which is, it's not going to be exciting because it's going to be the same thing as this, because the only person subscribed is Danny. But there we go. Yeah, so now we have 2 lists created in this account. Nice. So let's go ahead and maybe I'll subscribe myself. I think I should be part of the DevRel Live. So I'm going to copy this ID and put it back. And I'm going to comment out this part because my profile already exists down here. And I'm just going to change it. I know that mine is Adrian10036 because I use it all the time. And then we'll just return the results for me. So we'll save that. We'll run that. Subscribe. All right, and so I am now subscribed to courier.devrel.live.
And we saw 2 in the list above because you had retrieved that list from my subscription, correct?
Oh, this is the list the list call that I ran.
Yep. Perfect.
So now let's just verify that both of us are subscribed to that list. So I have get subscriptions is another endpoint that we have. And so we'll give that a try. And because, let's grab, we'll copy paste so I don't have any typos. So I'll put the list ID in here. And so we will await this courier.list.get subscriptions. We'll pass it the list ID, grab the items off of it, and then we'll show that in the table. Mm-hmm. And hopefully this will show Danny and myself. Clear. No good. Subscriptions. And so the subscriptions for this list are Danny and myself. And you can see that it marks, when they were created. So if you want to know when they were added to the list, we've got that. Mm-hmm. So that's super exciting. Should we do any more CRUD? Anything? There's also the ability to delete lists, mm-hmm. unsubscribe people. I think we've covered find by recipient. So if you want to know all the lists that one person is subscribed to, we've got that. Let's get down to the exciting stuff, which is sending, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think we maybe we'll look at doing something like a help document to show people how to take lists that they already have and make it easier to bring into Courier, but probably not a topic for the live show here.
Sounds like a pretty good blog post
Might be.
or a help doc. Or both. Why not both? Both are good. So let's go take a look at the notification that we can send.
Mhm.
And so in my Courier account, we go down to notifications. Here is my Courier Live Alert. And so this is always going to send as an email just because that's the way I have it set up from whenever we were playing with the webhooks. If you have a webhook, it's going to send that out. So maybe one day we'll have a way where you can subscribe with your URL that controls your I forgot what they're called, your hue light or some piece of IoT that you've created. I think it'd be cool to put out there like a spec, like this is what we're going to send to you. Create your own alert. So this is just a simple email. You'll notice that we have some variables that we're going to send over. We're going to be using information from the profile. So whenever I set up Danny's, I made sure that he has this given name formula, variable, value. Yeah, one of those. So I guess that's something we should talk about whenever you're sending to multiple people, where the data should go to be able to personalize these messages.
Yeah, well, the first place is certainly the profiles database, right? That's where you want to keep the information that personal information, not PI, but information that helps you personalize these messages, such as a given name, such as different ways to reach them, email, SMS, different channels if you're using social or push or things like that. So that's stuff that you're interested in keeping in the profile about that person that you're connecting with. And you can also provide data on the request as well when you're sending a list to that won't be unique to the individual recipients, but may be unique for that particular send. So if you had this generic update, the title, for example, might be something that's not going to change across the different recipients you send it to. However, it might change the next time you send this notification out. So there's two different ways. One's the profiles. The other is on the request itself as a part of the data property that allows you to use that here as well.
Nice. Okay, so this is what we're going to send. We'll go back over to the code, and I have some code scaffold up for doing a send. And so this is going to be very similar to the sends that we've done before, where we were just sending one message to one person. So I pulled in the data. I've updated it for today's live stream. We've got the hosts of me and Danny. And then what we're just simply going to, there's a new endpoint, or if you're using the node library, there's a new function, list.send. And so it's going to take a lot of the same info that the regular send takes, except we won't be targeting a specific recipient ID. We're going to be targeting a list ID, and we won't be passing profile information. So it's going to be as simple as giving it the event ID. So it's the same Courier_live_event ID that we've been using. I'm going to replace the recipient and the profile information with the list ID, and I'm going to pass it the data. So this is one way to send. So we keep talking about patterns, but this is sending using the list ID. So if you want to send just to this list, this is the way we're going to do it. We can do it, and I'm going to go ahead and send it out. This is fun.
I'll do here.
So, yeah, you'll have to watch. I have my email open, so I can show it.
Perfect.
But we'll go node send. No. Doing it live. We got another 400. That's fun. Well, we are going to have to dig into this. Does it say? Let's do a little troubleshooting. I just want to say that all of the tests passed. The test passed. So if this is a Node.js thing, I did my due diligence.
So I know that we just got the Node library pushed out here, so we're still working through that with the patch release coming. Is there another way we can use the docs site or something like that to send it?
You know what? I think we can use the docs site.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta find the right tab. It's this one. Okay, so if we go under the send API, we've got send lists. This should be set right because I'm logged in, right?
Correct.
Cool. I hope so. So one of the fun things about our docs site is there is like an API Explorer on here that's really nice for testing calls. So we can just put things in. We're going to send via a list. And I'm going to grab that value. And we're going, nope, that actually goes here in the event. The list ID, we're going to grab that value, which I didn't. I actually didn't put in a list ID either. I wonder if that was the problem.
Oh, the list ID is definitely that's definitely required.
Yeah. Here we're thinking it's the end of the world, and maybe it's not.
Yeah, we'll certainly want to wrap that and get a more helpful error, but for the sake of the live, it should work hopefully now.
Okay, no, that wasn't it. You know what? It wouldn't be exciting if everything worked just what just happened. Okay, so all we need to do is give it the list, the event, the data. Now this is where I worry because data is a string, but it's a JSON string. We'll see if it works.
The other option, I could actually trigger the send for you, just kind of insomnia here in the background.
Yeah, I don't think I've updated my insomnia to include these list points yet. That would have been a great thing to do as a backup.
Well, I can get that together here real quick.
Okay.
Just need to grab your auth token real quick.
Oh, let me switch back. Let me switch off our screen, and I'll copy that over for you.
Perfect. Let's see if we can do this live here and actually get this sending.
So as we started, I was like, I'm so excited. This definitely is a first look at for me because I haven't sent a message to a list yet. So this is going to be the first time. Up here. There we go.
Your event ID that you're using as well. So that Courier Live notification ID would be the last thing I think I need.
Okay, there's the event ID.
And then, actually, if you can pass me that JSON object, we want to, we also want to send the right data, and we don't have a bad notification come out here.
Yeah, it's actually a JavaScript object, so it needs to be massaged a little bit.
Yep, I'll take care of that there. And then, if you can just grab me your tenant ID.
My tenant ID.
Actually, I don't need your tenant ID.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, you shouldn't. You got my code. All right, we'll switch back over so you can see my screen.
All right, let's see.
There we go.
And
I'll pull up my email. Be ready to see it. Ready to see it come in.
All right, let's see how quickly I can do this. All right, let's see if that works.
Let's see.
Just adding some parentheses over here.
Little parentheses, some quotes.
I think we jinxed ourselves because the last time we were on here, we did. I think we talked about segment.
We did. Because segment's no code.
No code, and it was too fast. We got done in about half hour when we had planned for a little bit more than that.
Right.
And then our list ID was courier.devrel.live.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if I got all that right. Well, I guess I should pass it the notification I'm trying to send, since you took the time to actually send that to me.
Oh, yeah.
Is the first one there? Is that the
the first one is the auth token, and the second one is the event ID.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yeah. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
All right, we got a success.
Successes are great. Let me hit the button.
And what's even better, a notification.
Hey, look at that. Oh, well. We got the notification. It pulled in the parts that were fed through using the profile, but it looks like we had some issues coming over with the data. But this gives us a great opportunity to do one of my favorite things: check the logs and see what's going on. So if you ever need to troubleshoot, now's the time. And we can see that there are, that's interesting. I'm seeing many of them.
Because I sent another one real quick to see if, go back to your email real quick before we go into the log, and let's see if.
So we got, okay. So we got the one. So I bet the one that we sent with the list ID actually sent, but there's a problem with the return. So we're going to chalk this up to a problem with.
So I fixed the data on the second one here to make it look good because I had forgot to put the data actually in the data.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, okay.
So we can actually go, if you want to go back to the logs, we can take a look at the first ones. So we will only get these notifications once. This was two different send actions on my behalf, clicking enter over here on
okay.
Developer tool. So that first one we'll see if we look at the rendered in particular, we'll see that this is the one that didn't have the data properly. And we looked at the event received.
We look at what's being passed in. It looks like it's not inside data.
Exactly.
So, yeah. And then we can go and here's the other Danny one, and we can see where you fixed it. So we received, so we got the event ID, we got the list that we're sending it to, and we've got all the data inside data actually now.
Exactly.
So that's great. You notice on Danny's, we do have this undeliverable, and that's because he doesn't have a webhook. So we say always send to email and then send to the best of the other channels. There's only one channel, which is webhook, and if he doesn't have a webhook in his profile, then it's not going to send. So no big deal there. But you can see in mine, it did make a call to send to the email, and it did send to the webhook because I have a URL in my profile.
Very cool.
Nice. I'm trying to click on the wrong screen again. Okay, and so with that one call, those two calls, we were able to send a message to each of us because we were subscribed to the list. Boy, I think the last thing to talk about would be sending to a pattern. And are we set up to send, do a nice a nice send example for the patterns, because we have two lists right now. Mm-hmm. You're on both of them. Mm-hmm. I'm on one of them.
Yes, I don't think we won't we won't actually see the email itself go through here. But since we're kind of sending, I think, the same notification, what we can use here is the logs. And what we want to see is that so maybe we changed at Courier, we changed our terms, for using our service. So we don't care which list you're subscribed to. We want to send this out to everybody that's subscribed to us.
Okay.
We want to make sure it only happens one time. So this is an example of sending across multiple lists with one API call that goes to multiple recipients on as many channels as you are setting up and leveraging within your product to connect with your end users and customers. But we'll want to make sure that in the logs that we only see that it came to Adrian once, which subscribe to one list, so we should never expect that you would get it more than once. But I'm subscribed to 2 lists, so we should still only see that this was sent to me one time by using a pattern that shows you how you can send across multiple lists.
Okay, so let's go ahead and stage that over here in the code. We might need to have you actually send it as we investigate that bug. But the change that we would have to make is, so instead of sending a list ID, we would, let's say we're going to do a pattern. Right? And so what we're wanting to target is everybody subscribed to one of our lists, right? So to do that, we'd start with Courier, right?
Exactly. And so there's can we quickly switch back over to the patterns documentation, because I think that'll help us get a better idea as we're talking through this. So there's 2 different ways that you can use patterns. One way is using, so we see the different parts here.
Okay.
Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. We only have 3 parts in our example, but you can use up to 4. So we keep scrolling down here. There's a little bit more about the actual wildcards and patterns. So the first way to do it is just what we see there, Pokemon.**.gen1. So this is a way just to wildcard that one part of the pattern. We're not saying like you have to start with Pokemon, you have to have Gen 1 as your 3rd part, and you can only have 3 total parts. So it's kind of like an exact match on Pokemon, exact match on Gen 1, and then anything in between the 2 periods there will match.
Yeah, so this will bring us back all the types in Gen 1, basically.
All that start with Pokemon, and so if you started with Courier, that wouldn't match here because that's not an exact match Pokemon. But anything inside of Pokemon that ends in Gen 1, exactly.
Yeah, so sorry, it looks like the second one is types. So we got fire, grass, poison, etc. Yeah, our wonderful Pokemon examples. Okay.
So the other way to do it is kind of like wildcarding. We scroll down here, we'll see like Pokemon.fire.star. Or a better example even below that is Pokemon.star. So this is basically saying, I don't care what it ends with. Up to the 4 patterns. If it's Pokemon.justfire, that would match Pokemon.grass as we see, but all the way, this will allow you to go across patterns that don't have multiple segments as well. So when we talked about thinking up front about how you want to structure your list IDs, this is a really powerful way to leverage it because you can target different groupings of lists and the recipients that exist in there to ensure that you're sending notifications to them without having to, build different lists that are, it's a common way to do this is you have to pull out the membership, pull out the parts you want, put this into different temporary lists. This is a way to do that leverages the data and the structures you've already put in place for your organization.
Great. All right. So let's go back over here. And it sounds like what we are wanting is a pattern that is courier.**.
That's one way to do it. So this would we only have 2 lists right here. Both of them have 3 parts to their list ID. So the pattern here says up to 4 parts in this pattern or in these IDs. Courier.anything.anything.anything or courier.anything or courier.anything.anything. So it's like that example. It expands to up to 4 parts in the segment, but we should expect at this point. Since I'm subscribed to 2 lists, I only get 1 notification sent, and you only get 1 because we're sending to both courier.devrel.live and sending to courier.anything.anything. product.live.
Yeah, and I guess the other way that we could think of this is because both of the names ended in .live, we could even do something like courier.star.live, and
exactly.
that will target all of our lists.
And so let's say in this example, we knew that we only had 2 lists that had IDs that were 3 parts. So Courier part 1, DevRel part 2, Live part 3, and then obviously the product one. This would ensure that we didn't actually match on any topics that had 4 parts to their patterns. So courier.engineering.growth.live. We wouldn't want that to match in this example because that's what we're not trying to do. However, that would have matched in the star.
That's right.
Wildcard ends with.
Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll set this as the pattern. And then what?
I'll go ahead and do that one that you have there now with just the star in the middle, and we'll do a send example with that. And I'll change.
While he's doing that, the only thing that you would need to do is to pass that pattern instead of that list ID. But I don't think that. I mean, we could try it. We gotta figure out what's going on. But this is basically it. So you can either send it as a list ID or you can send it as a pattern. And let me see, node send. Then to look into.
Yeah, so I already triggered this in Omnia. So we'll show. I'm changing the title of the notification to. So we'll look at the logs real quick first.
Yeah, let's go back to the logs, to the right tab. Go up here and I'll load new ones.
I think you might need to refresh the page there.
I was like, whoa. Cool.
So let's look at the most recent one there, 48 seconds ago.
This one, right?
And let's look at the event received real quick. Let's start there. And we can see that the pattern used here was courier.star.live. And I changed the title a little bit so that when that notification came in, we would be able to see the difference.
Pattern star, sure.
Exactly. So that just helps us show there. So we can also see that the rendered at this point would be exactly what we would expect from the other ones, since we're passing the data, except for now, since I changed the data for that particular send, when we talked about the different ways to customize the message, now we have a different title.
Right. Okay. And so there's yours.
And I also did a star there. Did yours not come in?
I did not see mine come in. Oh, I'm doing that thing again. Yeah.
Interesting. Did we unsubscribe you by chance?
Let's see. So this is the get subscription for the DevRel Live. So let's run that. So subscribe.
Still there. Maybe it's kind of stuck in sending there. I would have expected that we would both have gotten a message on both of those because the pattern examples we had courier.star.live matches both courier.product and courier.devrel.live. And then the star as we talked about, courier.star will do the full ends with, so it should match both of those as well. So we'll take a look and see why you didn't actually get that there. Might have been something with the errors we ran into, but we'll get that cleaned up here right after live. Yeah, so there's lots of different examples here. We talk about the different things you can't do. Feedback we got from folks as we were building this was, it's very scary to accidentally send to everybody that I have across all lists. So, people were very worried about having just a star or star that just blasts everything. So we put safeguards and protection in place to ensure that that doesn't happen, that people do not get these notifications multiple times when you're sending a cross list, because while patterns is a very powerful way to send one API call to many, many recipients subscribed to different interests in your company, they're not necessarily something you just want to have completely out in the Wild West and safety's off kind of thing.
Right. Well, cool. I mean, I think we've gone through a lot today. I think we found some things that I need to work on. But I appreciate you coming here and explaining lists, especially the things around the patterns, and talking through kind of how to think about creating lists and start sending to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting to get for this, like I said, this first year plus of Courier's lifetime. Every send has really been one API call. Message ends up in hopefully one person's device or email inbox or wherever it may be, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. But now all of a sudden with lists, we're able to do a lot more. And I'm really excited to see what our customers do, because they're always doing creative uses of the features we're releasing. So just to start here, as we said, we've only got the support in the Node library and, just released here. So we'll hopefully see a lot from the community in the near future.
Yep.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Next week, we'll be back with a special Twilio Signal Virtual Conf session. We'll be starting 30 minutes earlier than normally, but I think it's worth it because I'm going to be joined by Twilio dev evangelist Lizzie Siegel. So until next time, thank you, Danny, and we'll see everyone later.